All right, let's relive the emotional roller coaster that has taken place over the years at the Show of Shows. I'm John Renton with a new countdown, my 15 most emotional WrestleMania matches with some honorable mentions. This list was really hard to put together because there are some I had to leave off because from the first one to number 36 and everything in between, there have been so many great emotional moments, matches for a variety of reasons at the Show of Shows. From champions being crowned, your favorites winning on the grandest stage of them all, to soul-crushing sadness, seeing some things end like the streak and like your favorite champion losing and just some careers ending and anything in between. Crowd reactions, just the elation, the pure joy that you could get watching wrestling and seeing how, when it's a perfect storm of emotion and great feud building, just how it can be absolutely fucking magical. This is a list I've been looking forward to doing for a while, and I feel that it's time to do it, but please let me know your thoughts in the comments. So, quickly, the honorable mentions: Reigns versus Brock versus Rollins at Mania 31 for Rollins' Money in the Bank cash-in. Absolutely fucking enthralling. Bret versus Shawn at WrestleMania 12. The boyhood dream has come true. Shawn versus Taker, WrestleMania 26 or 25, either Shawn's career ending or Taker and Shawn stealing the goddamn show at WrestleMania 25. You could take your pick. And then also Hogan versus Warrior at Mania 6 and Austin versus Rock at Mania 19 for the fact that, it was Austin's last match. So now let's get started with number 15, Savage versus Flair at Mania 8. Heenan's commentary absolutely fucking sold this. They were building up this whole thing of like Flair had Liz before Savage had Liz, a whole bunch of doctored photos, and these two always had great emotional matches that carried over into WCW. This should have been the main event. Of course, Hogan, because it was going to be his last match, had to have the main event, and a sloppy main event against Sid with Papa Shango not doing the best run-in because it was not his right cue, and he missed that, and somebody had to kick out of Hogan's leg drop. But anyway, Savage versus Flair was fucking incredible. Just great goddamn shit. Savage always, just was goddamn intense and wound up, and Flair got the best out of him, and they treated this like a goddamn fight. It was practically a street fight. Flair bled, Savage just kept beating him up, and Heenan's commentary added so much to it, and once Savage got the victory holding the tights and celebrated after Flair had worked on his legs, Savage got to hold the title aloft with Hogan not in his shadow. God, if only that happened at WrestleMania 4, but no, they couldn't fucking do that. Hogan had to be in Savage's shadow because he always knew that Savage was better than him. But anyway, great to see that Savage was able to win the championship on this big stage and hold it till just after SummerSlam 92. Him and Liz celebrated. Unfortunately, they would split up very soon after this, but this was terrific. Running the gamut of emotions, really good shit. Number 14, Bret versus Yokozuna at Mania 10. Bret getting his moment, the blast off to the new millennium. Savage and everybody celebrating in the ring. Luger looking like it should have been me. He was Dolph Ziggler before Dolph Ziggler was Dolph Ziggler. And man, I said Dolph Ziggler so many goddamn times. Now I'm picturing Dolph Ziggler and Lex Luger teaming up. And boy, that would have been a weird goddamn team. Anyway, Bret was able to beat Yokozuna here and win the championship and get his big moment. And that was fucking great about this. Like, it really was. And Savage, even on the turnbuckles, like, pointing like, nope, him, celebrate with him. Because Savage was about putting people over. And he really was good at that. And this was really, really good shit. I was super happy. Bret's my favorite wrestler of all time, and even at 13 years old, I was so goddamn happy to see Bret get his moment and have a pretty damn good run with the championship that didn't end all that great at Survivor Series 94, but he did win it back at Survivor Series 95, and then lost it to Shawn Michaels at Mania 12. The boyhood dream has come true, but for this moment, Bret was seen as the guy as he should have been a year prior. Then we get to number 13, Rock versus Cena, Mania 28. That crowd in Miami was fucking intense. This is where a crowd really fucking added to it. Like, they were very pro-Rock and they were very anti-Cena. You had Flo Rida and Machine Gun Kelly, which I don't really care for either of them, but at least Flo Rida had energy. Machine Gun Kelly, I really do not fucking care for as far as, his musical style. But that being said, this is a big fight feel, and I knocked Cena a lot, but Rock had not wrestled regularly in about 8 goddamn years. He had had one fucking match at Survivor Series 2011, and Cena got a lot out of him here. Because Rock, even though he was in incredible shape, he wasn't in ring shape. He was Hollywood, and Cena had promoted that, and they had promoted back and forth, and this was really damn intense. And that ending, where, Cena had tried to do the people's elbow. They were booing, and Rock got that rock bottom. 1, 2. I get goosebumps just thinking about 3. Crowd goddamn exploded. That was a stadium, an open air stadium that holds the fucking noise. It was loud as shit, and Rock was celebrating. I was thrilled. And Cena just looking dejected, and how they never fucking turned Cena heel after that, I will never fucking understand. And then, because it was great to see it. Now, Cena knocked Rock for going Hollywood, and now Cena has gone Hollywood, but it is what it is. Water under the bridge, and they had a pretty damn good feud, which really didn't care for the follow-up at Mania 29, but for this time, goddamn that crowd, and Rock's win, fucking goddamn great. Just had me absolutely ready to just run through a goddamn wall because I was so happy to see Rock beat Cena. And then we get to number 12, Angle and Rousey versus Triple H and Stephanie at Mania 34. I said this in my review that myself and Durbinator did about 3 years ago, and I had been saying, Rousey's debute's gonna suck, and I ate my fucking words with a goddamn plate of crow and a side of crow on the side. I was fucking wrong. This match was better than it had any goddamn right to be. It was perfectly paced. Angle and Triple H did most of the work. Once Rousey got the hot tag, she destroyed Stephanie. Yes, there was a logic loophole of Stephanie being able to block the armbar, but man, Ronda was there for everything. When she picked up Triple H, yes, Ronda outside the ring, we could get into that on a different show. And no, I don't really care for how she is outside the ring. But inside the ring, she got it. You could tell she was a fan, and she did a lot of really good shit. When she picked up Triple H, everybody was just like aghast. Everybody was absolutely on board with this. And when she finally got that armbar on, they were fucking just molten hot to see Stephanie get her arm broken. Anything to get Stephanie off of television at that point. And Ronda got the tap out, and it was great. And I could not believe that I enjoyed that match as much as I did. It was fucking great. Was it the greatest thing ever as far as, technically? No. But was it fucking great as far as sports entertainment and how it presented Ronda Rousey? Abso-fucking-lutely. So we then get to Steamboat versus Savage at number 11 from Mania 3. The crowd roaring when Steamboat won is why I put this on here. They had built this feud up for a while. Savage had tried to destroy Steamboat's ability to speak, crushing his throat, doing all that shit, and it was fucking great. Absolutely fucking great. I fucking love this. It was wonderful. It was the match that stole WrestleMania 3. Because, now, don't get me wrong, Hogan and Andre should get a special mention here for how the crowd reacted. But Steamboat and Savage, to me, more emotional. Because you got to see Savage at his peak. You got to see Steamboat at his peak. Even though Savage had plenty of great matches left, Steamboat, he would hit another peak in that series of matches with Ric Flair in 1989. But to me, he never quite reached his zenith like he did here. And it was just fucking great. And then, George Animal Steel interfering, the bell, not hitting in the Savage's head, but also hitting in the Savage's head because they had to try and, goof that up a little bit. And then 1, 2, 3, crowd explodes. 78,000 people, not 93,000 people. I'm not going to fucking believe it was 93,000 people. I just won't. I just have a very hard time believing that they managed to. Hey, maybe they did. Maybe I'm just totally fucking wrong and I'm just buying into a whole bunch of bullshit. But that being said, it was still great to see Steamboat win over Savage, and the emotion was absolutely fucking great. And then we get to number 10, Shawn versus Angle, Mania 21. I had to look through all the cards and really decide, what matches were emotional and why. Was it just because they made me cry? Was it just because they, reminded me of why I love professional wrestling? What was the reason? Was it because they made me sad, but also because it just helped me, it helped remind me of how important this moment was? Well, this one was just why I love fucking wrestling. And honestly, Angle and Shawn just went absolutely full bore. It was fucking great. One of the best matches in WrestleMania history. The spots that they did, the freaking, the moonsaults, the fact that Angle looked like he was trying to do something else to Shawn Michaels during that German suplex outside. I had a picture at one point that I shared on Twitter, and they go, "You had to do wrestling out of context, didn't you?" I said, "Yes, I did, because wrestling is funny and wrestling is weird." But this, it was fucking great. You thought Shawn was going to get the victory, but no, he eventually tapped out to the ankle lock. But the pacing, the big moves that they did, just tap out, boom, super kick. But then he eventually would tap out to the ankle lock. It was just fucking great. A great goddamn match. Takes you on a goddamn roller coaster. They would have other great matches in 2005. Vengeance 2005, and then on the Raw Homecoming in 2005. I believe October 3rd, 2005, and then They would also be part of a triple threat match at Taboo Tuesday '05. So yeah, they would do a series of great goddamn matches. But man, Mania 21 was the peak. Even though the other matches are great, this was fucking great. And some people say it only met expectations. To me, I gotta say it kind of exceeded them. Because these guys were so goddamn good. Angle, even though his, issues were starting to take hold because he'd had a lot of injuries and didn't get a lot of time off. And Shawn had the back injury that may or may not have been that severe. Who the fuck knows? He had come back from that. They had done some really great goddamn shit, and this match was just fucking incredible. Great roller coaster of emotions. Then we get to number 9, Rock versus Austin in Mania 17. Emotional for a few reasons. One, the crowd being so pro Austin despite the fact he was trying to heel, and the crowd not liking that Vince McMahon interfered and that Stone Cold turned heel. Yeah, that didn't fucking work. But Rock and Austin always had great goddamn chemistry. I would have put their Mania 15 one here. I always feel like that was the lesser of the three. It was just, in my opinion, just under Mania 19. Even though it was great. It was fucking great. This was their best Mania match. Maybe not quite as good, as their Backlash 99 match that they had. But this was still their best Mania match. And the absolutely just insane crowd energy. And the insane crowd energy did not end with this match. I mean, because it had actually started earlier in the show, as I'll talk about here with the next entrant. And you know what match that is. But Austin and Rock they created magic here. It was only a little bit of a downer because of the Austin heel turn, which didn't fucking work. And Austin's even said since that he should have called an audible and stunned Vince. But the two-man power trip, a lot of this shit, a lot of the fallout was really fucking weird. It was obvious they wanted to cement the end of the Attitude Era. And all they did was kind of cool off Stone Cold Steve Austin. The crowd didn't want to boo him. He was a badass. He was the anti-hero. And now he aligned with the boss, the man he'd been feuding with for, pretty much since 97. And it did not fucking work at all. But it was an emotional roller coaster. Just didn't have the best ending. But speaking of Mania 17, emotional roller coasters, number 8, Vince versus Shane in Mania 17. Another match that had no right being as good as it was. You had Linda McMahon in the, the medicated coma. Not that you could fucking tell, because Linda McMahon always looked and sounded and acted like she was in a medicated coma. And you know what I'm fucking talking about. Goddamn idiot. But she was pushed out by Trish, on a wheelchair, and she was just there at ringside. Mick Foley was a referee. Stephanie and Trish getting involved after Shane had crashed through the goddamn announcer's table. And all the WCW guys that were in the skybox that were going to interfere, and then somebody opened their goddamn mouths about what was going to happen, and that thing got cooled off in the invasion angle. Yeah, the invasion angle didn't fucking work. I will retro-view that, by the way, because why the fuck not? I mean, why not? What the fuck else am I going to do? I'll just probably get started on that sometime in March, or maybe, late March, and then sometime in April, and just get ahead, and because it's been fun to retro-review the last year of WCW. Anyway, as for Vince and Shane, Vince was never a technical wizard. He was never really any good, but he made this shit look good, and Linda McMahon's there, sitting in a wheelchair, acting like a goddamn coma patient, which really it's hard to tell if Linda's acting or actually that's just how she is. She has the personality of a wet blanket, and about as much usage. And he's trying to get at her, and Mick Foley's like, don't even think about it, Vince. Don't even think about it. And he tries to take her away, and then Vince hits Foley in the head with a chair, a couple times. He throws Shane in the ring, gets a chair, sets Linda in it. And this is where the crowd just absolutely went insane. And it had no right to be this funny. It had no right to be this funny or this emotional. He does this. He sets her in the chair, hits Shane twice with a trash can, and then actually throws one, almost hits the announcers, and says, you want this? Watch this. She stands up. The crowd goes insane. I always laugh about this, and I'm going to keep laughing about this no matter what, but she stands up. Vince is holding this can and looking at her and looking down and looking at her like, Linda, we're on live pay-per-view. Kick me in the goddamn groin. What are you doing? She finally kicks him in the groin. The crowd goes nuts. She leaves. Foley attacks Vince. We get the Van Terminator from Shane. 1, 2, 3. But just Vince in that visual of him holding that fucking can, being like, okay, Linda, what the fuck are you doing? It was great, but it was a great reaction. The biggest pop that Linda McMahon ever fucking got. Bar none. It was really fucking cool and really fucking great. And it just sends me on a freaking rush of emotions. And it was really fucking cool. Speaking of a rush of emotions, Brock vs. Taker Mania 30, the day that Brock broke Twitter. It should have been Roman, and I don't like saying that necessarily because I was very down on Roman being a single star and being pushed as the guy, but it could have cemented him as a heel, and they really should have turned him heel well before they did, even though he's been doing some great shit, and Brock didn't need it. He really fucking didn't. And this was also, I'm convinced that this was Vince saying, hey, oh, you fans want Daniel Bryan? Well, I'm taking the Undertaker streak. I'm taking your guys' soul. I'm taking the energy out of the Superdome so nobody cheers Daniel Bryan. Ha! Fuck you, Vince. We got you back. The live crowd especially. But man, Brock and Taker, they tore it up for about 5 minutes. And then Undertaker suffered that concussion. And then things got really awkward and weird. And I felt bad for Undertaker. Because he shouldn't have suffered that. Now, yes, recent history has proven that maybe Undertaker isn't the best outside the ring, but as far as what he gave to wrestling, he did give a lot, and this was pretty much the point where if the streak was going to end, then Undertaker should have been done. And I'm surprised he wasn't fucking done because he was so goddamn rocked that he had to go to the hospital. Vince went with him. He left WrestleMania to go see The Undertaker. That's something. But yeah, it was the night that, or it was the match that basically broke the Superdome. You could feel the soul being sucked out of everybody there. You had Undertaker Street Guy. You had everybody, like the women were sent out there. It's like, oh, hey, ladies, you're all here. It's like, hey, go out there. Thanks. You just took the energy out of the crowd. But then they got it back a little bit later, as I'll talk about here. So, firstly, though, number 6, Rock versus Hogan Mania 18. This wouldn't have worked if it was Austin versus Hogan. Much as I would want to see Hogan lose to Austin, because Stone Cold deserved it, Rock was the perfect guy to do it. The Toronto crowd absolutely went insane. They wanted to see Hogan back there, and they cheered their hearts out. It was nuts. When Rock finally hit a move, they booed, and Rock decided that, it's like, well, gotta go heel. Gotta act heel, and he did. He tore it up. He did so many great things there, doing all the antics, chopping Hogan in the corner, doing this, just doing that. Back to heel Rock, and then Hogan, when he finally fired up, I'm not going to go through a full match review. I will review this, or retro review this entire event sometime in March, because why not? I want to retro review some WrestleManias, because it's WrestleMania, and you got to look back at some of the good stuff, even some of the bad stuff. But when Hogan started hulking up, they just went nuts. He finally hit the leg drop on Rock. He beat Andre the Giant with that move. So Jarrett 1, 2, Rock kicks out. Then eventually Rock would hit the finish, 1, 2, 3, and then would celebrate with Hogan. And then the NWO would be thrown out the goddamn window because Hogan was going to turn face. And there's one thing about Canadian crowds. Honestly, Canadian crowds are fucking terrific for being able to get the reaction they fucking want and the reaction they know needs to happen. They'll get that across however they need. It's like they will be just as loud as possible, as angry as possible, as passionate as possible. And they really did on this night. And it was fucking great. Number 5, Flair versus Shawn, Mania 24. I'm sorry, I love you. Kick 1, 2, 3. Really don't need to say anything else there. It just was really great. It was everything that Flair had left in him. And then he went to TNA, and boy, he didn't have anything left at that point. We got the woo-off between him and Lethal, but that was it. This was great. It was everything that needed to be wrapped up in a nice, neat low bow for Flair's career. And granted, other wrestlers have unretired, but just that was so fucking perfect. He should have fucking been done after that. But it was really goddamn good. Shawn just fucking crushing his ribs doing that goddamn moonsault. Like on the announcer's table, I'm like, ow. It was really good shit. A great goddamn match. And you can't go wrong with how emotional it was. And yeah, you could say Shawn Michaels' retirement should have been on here. To me, Flair's retirement was more emotional. It's not that Shawn's career didn't mean anything, but Shawn had done everything that he needed to do. He got to have his career come back, or he got to come back, have a second run in his career. Flair, I always felt like his WrestleMania runs just were never the best. I wish that he was able to be involved in every WrestleMania from 2002 to 2008. And they did at the even WrestleManias. He never wrestled a Mania 19. He didn't wrestle 21. He didn't wrestle 23 on the main card. He wrestled on the pre-show. But still, they imagine how many more classics he could have had on the grandest stage of them all. But anyway, this is a great moment, and Shawn winning, it was the right call. And Flair was emotional, as he should have been. You could argue this should have been the main event, but you know what? Edge versus Undertaker was a very, very, very worthy main event. We get to number 4, Bret versus Austin, Mania 13. I can't describe the amount of emotions I feel rewatching this match every time. One, Bret is one of my favorite, or is my favorite wrestler of all time. Was somebody that kept me in wrestling when others either left, for WCW. Even though I love WCW, like they would just be these old guys over there. Bret was one constant in WWE because that was my first love, even though I have grown to love a lot of other promotions, a lot more than WWE. But Stone Cold was rising up. They had a great goddamn street fight, beat the shit out of each other, did a whole bunch of great shit, and then Austin bleeding. That sharpshooter spot, Ken Shamrock as a referee. Just a perfect storm of emotion where they didn't turn on Bret, they turned on to Austin. And, Austin, that blood, him powering out, trying to power out of the sharpshooter, and just the announcer selling it, the crowd. That was a really hot crowd in Chicago. That was like pretty much one of the only matches they reacted to, but it was exactly what they, needed to get them back into it. And then it's like Austin got out of it. No, he didn't. And Bret locked it on, and Austin eventually passed out. Steve, if you do not answer, I will stop the match. He stops the match. That's it. And Bret, beats on Austin a little more, cement the heel turn. He leaves. Austin stuns one of the referees, and the crowd is just going ape shit for Austin. Absolutely ape shit. And he didn't quit. He didn't give up, and that was admirable. It is one of the best matches of WrestleMania history. Also, we get to number 3, Bryan versus Batista versus Orton, Mania 30. Ho! Vince thought that taking the streak would take the energy out of the crowd, and it did. Until they got into it. When it was Batista and Orton on offense, sweet fucking Christ, that crowd did not give a shit. They wanted Daniel Bryan to win. I was at the Slammy Awards in December 2013 when the fans took over that championship ascension ceremony for Cena and Orton, and we kept cheering for Daniel Bryan. That's exactly what it needed to be. It needed to be Daniel Bryan. It's revisionist history on WWE's part. They didn't want Daniel Bryan to be in the main event, but he fucking was. Yes, he would be injured shortly after this and would have to relinquish the championship and would not be able to be around that much longer, be around for the Royal Rumble, be the champion and the Intercontinental Champion, and then would have to retire. And I was even there for his retirement. And then he got to come back a couple years later. As for this match, when Daniel Bryan had already wrestled Triple H in a terrific fucking opening match at Mania 30. Really, really great. One next to Owen and Bret, the best opening match in WrestleMania history. So that's the second best, like 1 and 1A. This was fucking incredible because Daniel Bryan finally coming back, hitting, attacking Orton, getting the yes lock on Batista, and just, man, that freaking, when he finally got that tap out, the crowd just erupted. Connor the Crusher, the kid that had the brain cancer. Really emotional fucking Warrior Award speech a year later. If that doesn't hit you, I don't know what will. And fuck anybody for booing the goddamn dad and, making fun of him. But goddamn, just that emotion, Daniel Bryan celebrating. It's a miracle on Bourbon Street. Michael Cole having to ruin everything because Michael Cole knows how to do that thing. But this was great. Daniel Bryan getting his moment. Like he gave in the second match, he gave it back 5 years later, Kofi versus Daniel Bryan at number 2. I will be the first to admit that I did not think that they were going to give it to Kofi Kingston. It was supposed to be Mustafa Ali, or Mustafa Ali, I apologize for saying that wrong, versus Daniel Bryan. Ali got injured, Kofi got put in. Kofi Mania was born. And I'm like, they're not going to give it to... They wouldn't have given it to Ali. I'm sorry, they would have not given it to Ali. I'm not saying Ali didn't deserve it, but they wouldn't have given it to him. But Daniel Bryan gave it back to Kofi. He did everything he could at this point to basically cement Kofi as being the guy that deserved it. And when Kofi finally did, he hit that Trouble in Paradise. And that was at Giant Stadium, right? In New Jersey. 1, 2, when the 3 count hit, everybody exploded. Emotion, and I remember I was watching him with the Durban Air. He was absolutely emotional. Seeing my best friend happy about that was fucking great. I was already emotional seeing the Iconics win earlier in the night, but Kofi Kingston winning the WWE Championship, it was Byron Saxton's best call, perhaps. 11 long years, all that stuff, all the bumps, all the miles. He was absolutely emotional, just overrun with emotion. This was great shit, though. Kofi Kingston gained his moment. Daniel Bryan giving back, knowing that Kofi deserved it. It's fucking great. This was almost number one. Number one, though, Savage versus Warrior Mania 7. I'm not fond of giving credit to Warrior, but him and Savage had a great fucking match here. Retirement match. Whoever lost would have to retire. Sensational Sherry in Savage's corner. Miss Elizabeth with, in the crowd there. And she'd been aligned with Savage, but he had turned to the dark side. And then Warrior beats Savage, putting his foot on the ropes. It was a good match. It was a really good match. Savage basically having to do everything to beat Warrior, but no, Savage lost, and he was going to retire and basically spend time with Liz and try to repair his marriage and do some commentary and stuff like that. And then by December? I think November, December, he was back in the ring because Vince realized, oh shit, Savage, can you come back? Because, yeah, this isn't exactly working. And nothing could really save their marriage at that point. Savage and Liz, not Savage and Vince. But anyway, even though you can be married to your top talents. Anyway, so watching this, the aftermath is really what sells it on this. Now, it was an emotional match. But Sherry's beating up Savage. I'm going to be careful here because this always gets me. I was 10 years old when this moment happened, and it still gets me. Whether it was manufactured and there were plants in the audience, emotional plants in the audience. Heenan and Monsoon absolutely fucking sold this too. Liz and Savage finally reuniting. The best emotional moment in WrestleMania history, by the way, in my personal opinion. Nothing against Kofi winning the WWE Championship. This is just my opinion. But goddamn, the emotion and just everything, the outpouring and seeing them all happy. Must have had the chili dog with onions and all this stuff from Heenan. And the great line, Heenan just trying everything he could, because I think even Heenan might have been emotional about it. But just the amount of emotion outpouring from that crowd that was supposed to be in, it was supposed to be in the LA Coliseum, but it wasn't going to be because they weren't drawing that many fans at that point. But that was fucking great. I'm not crying inside. Shut up. You can shut up about that. But those are my 15 most emotional WrestleMania matches, in my opinion, with some honorable mentions. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Rethlin. I'll see you soon.